They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but for a select few, a 10-second video costs them absolutely everything. Today, we aren't looking at digital marketers, we are looking at the social media disasters who traded their entire existence for a few digital likes. These are the 7 dumbest exits from the viral gene pool. Sit back and watch what happens when the desperate need for attention completely unplugs basic survival instincts. One standing safely behind a glass window on the 60th floor just doesn't bring in the views anymore. A thrill seeker decided that hanging entirely off the outside ledge of a massive skyscraper by their bare fingertips was the only way to build a following. What makes a human brain confidently believe that sweaty hands are a reliable substitute for professional climbing gear? They dangled their entire body weight over the busy city streets below, smiling directly into a camera mounted on a stick. They completely ignored the heavy wind and the fast buildup of muscle fatigue. Did they actually expect the laws of gravity to pause the video while they pulled themselves back up? Their grip simply ran out of strength long before they ran out of confidence. The camera captured the exact moment their fingers gave way. They wanted to climb straight to the very top of the social media charts, but they took a very fast, entirely permanent elevator straight to the pavement instead. 2 wild animals are apex predators, equipped with natural weapons, but some people view them as unpaid actors for their next big post. A hiker spotted a massive wild bear walking through the deep woods. Instead of slowly backing away and protecting their own life, they pulled out their phone and marched straight toward the massive beast. Why do people firmly assume that a 1,000-pound predator cares about their follower count? They turned their back directly to the massive animal, holding the phone high in the air to capture both of their faces in the exact same frame. Did they truly believe the deadly creature would politely smile for the flash instead of defending its territory? The flash went off, and the startled animal instantly reacted with absolute brutal force. The hikers secured a highly exclusive close-up shot of raw nature, but they rapidly became the main course instead of the main character. 3 trains weigh thousands of tons and require over a mile to come to a complete stop, making them the absolute worst background props in existence. A social media hopeful decided that standing directly on the metal tracks with a massive locomotive approaching would look incredibly dramatic. How does a person hear the blaring horn of a speeding metal giant and decide it is just an audio cue for their big scene? They stood perfectly still, timing the shot so the heavy machine would appear directly over their shoulder. They completely misunderstood how wide a train engine actually is. Did they actually expect the massive wall of moving steel to politely step around them at the very last second? The train did absolutely nothing wrong. It simply occupied the exact same space the person refused to leave. They successfully captured the ultimate action shot, but they were permanently canceled by a freight train. 4. Driving a car requires constant attention, but leaping out of a moving vehicle to dance next to it is a fast track to disaster. A driver wanted to film a popular online challenge on a busy, open highway. They set the cruise control, opened the door, and stepped completely out of the rolling heavy machine to perform a synchronized dance routine. At what point does leaving a moving 2-ton missile completely unattended seem like a highly calculated career move? They danced perfectly alongside the rolling tires, staring entirely at the phone screen instead of the actual road ahead. Did they simply assume the massive asphalt highway was a perfectly flat, obstacle-free dance floor? Their foot clipped a small pothole, sending them directly under the heavy back wheels of their own vehicle. The car kept rolling, completely unaware it had just run over its own driver. It was a flawless dance routine with a lethal finale. 5. Standing near rushing water is highly peaceful, but treating a slippery, moss-covered cliff like a professional photo studio is deeply foolish. A tourist hiked to the very top of a massive roaring waterfall and wanted a picture looking straight down into the violent mist. What makes a grown adult confidently trust wet, muddy boots right on the edge of a 100-foot drop? They climbed completely over the heavy wooden safety fence that was specifically built to keep them alive. They leaned their upper body far over the raging water, stretching the camera out to get the absolute best angle. Did they genuinely believe their balancing skills were magically stronger than wet slime and fast water? One foot slipped a single inch, and the rushing water instantly took total control of the situation. They wanted to capture the sheer power of nature, but they quickly became a very permanent part of the scenery below. 6. Using fake weapons in a video can look highly cinematic, but using a real loaded weapon to get extra views is a spectacular failure of basic logic. A creator wanted to show off how tough they were by pointing a genuine firearm directly at their own chest while recording. Why do people constantly forget that pulling a heavy metal trigger will always result in a heavy metal consequence? They boldly claimed the safety was turned on, looking right into the lens to show absolute fearlessness. Did they actually think a tiny mechanical switch is a completely foolproof shield against raw explosive power? They squeezed the trigger simply to prove a point to their audience. The safety was not on. The camera captured the loud, sudden end of their entire broadcasting career in a single, deafening flash. They traded decades of future life just to look dangerous on the internet for exactly 3 seconds. 7. Acrobatics are deeply impressive on a padded gym floor, but performing them on the very edge of a high concrete bridge is just begging for an early retirement. A gymnast wanted to film a flawless backflip with a massive rocky river gorge in the direct background. How does a person completely fail to calculate the exact landing zone before launching their body entirely backward into thin air? They stood on the narrow concrete barrier, counted down from 3, and threw themselves powerfully backward. Did they actually believe they could perfectly stick a blind landing on a surface no wider than a standard shoe? Their feet missed the concrete edge by less than an inch. They completed a beautiful rotation, right up until gravity pulled them past the barrier and directly into the massive gorge. They wanted to go incredibly viral, but they just went incredibly downward instead. To ensure your next big stunt doesn't end up as a script on this channel, hit subscribe and stay safely in the audience. Let me know in the comments, which of these 7 digital disasters truly deserves the crown today. Until next time, stay smart, because gravity doesn't offer refunds.